Action step 7 reads, determine which of your web content and mobile apps need to comply with WCAG 2.1 under the rule. There is overlap with some of the previous action steps. All we're doing here is determining which of our content, if any, falls under one of the 5 exceptions provided by the web rule. If any content falls under one of those exceptions, then we're not going to work on it. So look back at your inventory list, determine which content doesn't need to be worked on, and then mark that separately. So we want to take note of it so that we know all of our content, all of our inventory that we have, but then we want to make sure that we're not working on any content that would fall under an exception. So here, what's really nice is there are several examples under action step 7 to help us get a better feel for what would need to be WCAG 2.1 AA conformant and what would fall under an exception. So most of the examples here need to be WCAG 2.1 AA conformant, but there are a few scenarios where we can see that this would fall under an exception. So I'm not going to, there are collapsible or expandable options here where I can add, we can see more text. I'm not going to click on those. Let's just quickly run through these. So services offered via HTML web pages obviously need to be accessible. Old PDFs potentially fall under an exception. Social media posts potentially fall under an exception. It depends if they are before or after the compliance deadline. And then we have links to third-party websites. So if you are relying upon these third-party websites for your user's experience, then it needs to be WCAG 2.1 AA conformant. If this is simply a link to an independent third-party website, then it very likely does not need to be WCAG 2.1 AA conformant. Password protected portals. The portals themselves need to be accessible. A library website, obviously covered. Course content, that's going to be covered as well. And so is the mobile app. So I highly recommend you go through these examples and just open up these expandable boxes and read through the text. This is going to help give you a really good feel for what is covered and what is not. This doesn't include everything, but it just gives you a better idea. And the more you go through these examples, the more you're going to understand what content is covered and what is not. Of course, you'll always fall back to the actual exceptions that are provided in the fact sheet, but these examples will help give you some practical application of those exceptions. So that's all we're doing with action step 7, is determining which content that we don't need to work on. So that's it for here. In the next video, we'll cover action step 8.